Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Laura Lee, and I am joined today with my very good friend, Ben Glass. Ben and I go back way back, and he's just written another new book. So he has quite a list of books that he's authored, but we're going to be talking about his new book, No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs. Ben is an attorney. He runs a very successful trial and ERISA benefit law practice in Virginia. And he is also the founder of Great Legal Marketing, which is one of the best marketing coaching programs for attorneys in the United States. He's also a father of 9 and he is a soccer referee. He's got his hands in a lot of stuff and always has. And we're going to just jump in with how he's managed to keep all those balls in the air and really lead a fun life that is semi non-stressful. I want him to share some of his secrets that I have admired over the years and put into practice, and I know they work. So, welcome, Ben.
What a kind introduction. Semi non-stressful. I think the way I would put it is, you need stress to live. So for the most part, Laura Lee, the things I do and have to do in my life, I actually like doing and I'm good at. And I think that's a lot of what I teach, and Dan Kennedy and I, my co-author, want to impart in this book is like, hey, you're an entrepreneur. If you're watching this, you're trying to close, in our case, new clients into law firms, make money move. We're all really busy and we got to do it by Friday because then there's another week that starts. And there's a ton of time management books out there, but I think this is the most practical book. It's the 4th edition, and I was honored to have Dan invite me in to write from a different perspective than he has, because he's not, in a long time, has not run a company with a lot of employees. He doesn't have 9 kids. He's not out refereeing soccer games and things like that. And so that's why he invited me in. And then he's told me recently, so I think people are going to be surprised to see like how ruthless Gentle Ben is with how we build structures around us to make it look like we're managing time. Because you don't really manage time, but you manage the people and the structures around you to put you in this place where you're working in your zone of genius, Dan Sullivan. And that's how we make the world move. That's how we make the world better, Laura Lee. So
Well, and
happy to go wherever you'd like to go.
I remember 20 years ago when we were working together,
Yes.
and you were using these same principles of you got to keep the time vampires out of my realm. And we're going to talk about all these little things that you put in place to be really militant about protecting your time. And then who you put around you to buy you more time in a way, right? So I think those are important parts. But before we get to that, I want to hear the story of how you and Dan worked together to build this, to write this book.
It's hilarious. Yeah.
I know you and Dan go way back too. So tell me about this.
I'm holding up a copy of the book. It's going to be released August 13. And as I said, it's the 4th edition. But the 1st edition, as you already alluded to, changed my life because there were some strategies there that I immediately started to employ. The very first thing I did, I was reading it on vacation. I went to a phone booth, put my coins in, that's how long ago it was, and told my team, from now on, we're not taking any unplanned inbound phone calls. Someone wants to talk to me, they got to do it by appointment. My team said that will never work. People will get upset. I've been doing it for 20, 25 years now. So fundamentally, the book started to, and I had read other time management books and been in other time management programs, but the book started to change, again, structures. So we're recording this, it's end of July of 2024. And it was about a year ago, Dan faxed it because Dan, one of his structures in place is you can only communicate with him by fax.
Right.
He's got no email. He's got no website. There's websites with his name on it, but they're not his websites. And so he sends me a fax because I'm going to do the 4th edition. And would you like to come in and be a co-author? And I think that would be fun. And so I faxed him back, because you don't just pick up the phone and call Dan. You fax him back and you go, Dan, yeah, I'd love to. Let me tell you, I'm really busy right now. We were planning for our conference I speak all over the country, and I'm full-time practicing attorney, and I'm refereeing, right? I go, great, as long as there's enough time. He goes, we got 30 days. 30
Of
days.
course.
So I said, yes, of course, I'll do it. And so I immediately carved out. And the thing I did is I went back and I read the third edition. I outlined it over the weekend. And I thought about those areas where I could add a different perspective than Dan had. So I did my chapters and he liked them. And he faxed me back and said, I took everything just about the way you wrote it. Thanks for doing that. I thought you said, because we did have one 20-minute phone call where we literally 20-minute phone call. We just go down the chapters. You do this, I do this, you do this. And he's, I thought you were going to write a technology chapter. I must have mentioned this. And I'm not a big tech guy. Like my team does tech. I don't have a huge tech stack. And so you'll see the chapter in the book is about the entrepreneur himself or herself not having a huge tech stack necessarily, right? Because there's new technology every week. You drive yourself crazy just going to learn stuff. So I did that, but now we're in October and I'm at my conference. I'm running a major marketing conference in Orlando and I'm getting up really early in the morning. This is the time management guy to write the chapter on the technology side.
Mhm.
So it's good. It's fun. Like it's always, Dan has had a tremendous influence. Dan County's had a tremendous influence on my life. I would say too, for those of you who are familiar, Dan's got a whole series of these no BS books. And the time management book, he told me, is the biggest seller, right? More of that copy have been sold than any of the others. And Entrepreneur Press is the publisher. So it's been fun working with them and being aligned with a major publisher of books for us, for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, you've written a lot of books. This isn't your first book that you've
Right.
written, but I think this is the first one with Dan, correct?
I have actually, so Dan's got a program where he'll license books. And so I've got two others where he'll license you material and then you write chapters that intermingle with his
Yeah.
chapters,
Okay.
right? And so we've done that. And I just saw Joel's question here. He asked, what about potential new client calls? Obviously, we have a system for that, right? Like you should not be the one, if you're the lawyer, answering all the new client calls because only one in X are going to be cases that you actually want. And so we've got a whole system. But even back then, because I started, but people forget is they look at me and they go, oh, it's easy for you to say, you've got all these people running under roof. It started with me and one assistant in a law firm working 4.5 days a week, not because we had time management under control, because we didn't have enough cases. And so we built it from there. And then you were very instrumental in the beginning of Great Legal Marketing, like helping me get stuff done. But no, lawyers don't answer new incoming
Well,
potential.
I remember when you first started rolling that whole idea out to the members in Great Legal Marketing of, look, you no longer take unscheduled. And there was so much backlash. There was so much pushback of saying, oh, I could never do that. That will never work. And as they started implementing it, they're like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Why didn't I do
Yeah.
this 20 years ago? Right. And I know I even operate the same way. I don't take unscheduled calls. Everything goes onto my calendar. You have to get on my calendar to meet with me. So
And
it,
clients love this. Why? Because when that call is now made by appointment, they're prepared. I'm prepared. I actually know because my team has vetted. I know the questions and I know what documents I'm gonna have to look at. Whereas
Mhm.
before, Lorelei, I may be working on a case for you. I'm deep in working. The phone rings, I answer it, and someone's hitting me with a question out of left field. I don't know the answer, so now I'm embarrassed. They're upset, and I've lost track of what I was doing for you. So that's a mess. And what that does is it causes lawyers to have increased stress. So I can only tell you that by applying, and we'll talk about mindset because there's a mindset behind the whole book, but applying some of these strategies, I get 50 or 60 lawyer newsletters every month from lawyers who send me their print newsletters, like our members. Almost everyone now has this client communication policy printed right on the newsletter. We do not take unplanned inbound phone calls.
Yeah. And I think it's all in the way that you present it. As long as you present it in the right way, then the client is feeling or the prospect is feeling good about it rather than turned
Yes.
off about it, right? It's all about languaging. And I know you teach that like dialed
Yeah. There's
perfectly.
a whole science about lawyers. Like, we don't like to hear this, but we're a commodity. We just are, right? From the consumer standpoint, we're just a commodity, no matter how great you think you are. The space where you can really set yourself apart is in client experience, the customer experience. If you just think about how most lawyers answer phones and don't, like the largest complaint is lawyers didn't communicate with me. Think of these all these little things that you can make better so that the experience of dealing with you is as good as whatever other company. It might be Amazon, it might be a high-end jeweler, whatever other company that client is used to dealing with and loves, like we can make that experience. But you and I can get off track and we can
Yeah,
do hours
let's
and
get
hours.
back to the time.
Yeah, yeah.
I want you to tap in. Let's talk. We just talked about the one of don't take unscheduled calls. Give me two more of the top tips that you think the law firms in my world could
Yeah.
apply that would be most beneficial to saving them time tomorrow if they implemented it.
Yeah, so I think the second top strategy in the book really is the concept of time blocking. And then the third thing that we can talk about is, and really goes to Joel's question, I think, in part, is how do I build a team that allows me to work in my zone of genius while they are delivering a spectacular experience to the client, answering, not doing legal answers if they're not lawyers, understand this, but answering the 99% of questions that aren't that for the client. And so we can talk about both of those things because I think it's really critical. And these are these are habits. And here's what's cool, because people will say to Dan and to me, oh, you must be really disciplined and just nothing gets you off track. And that's just not true. We're not that disciplined. And Dan would say this as well. But what we have built are structures that make it so we don't actually have to be disciplined to, quote, manage our time or to do our habits. The structures do this. So a structure that I think everyone could start to implement today is the old to-do list. If you read, Laura Lee, traditional time management books, we're all about you make your list, you put it in priorities, and you say, I'm going to get the two things done today that are going to make the most difference in my life. And if they don't get done, I'm going to scoot them over to the next day. Okay. That really is the old way. So I do not keep any sort of prolonged to-do list, right? When something comes into my world that I somehow have to respond to, react to, or do, right? I'll make a quick jot on it if I'm not in front of my computer, right? So we're going to hold the thought, but then that thing has to be planted on the calendar, all right? No matter what it is. So this event, we're doing Facebook Live, and this is a webinar. It rose a few weeks ago. Terrific, great. It didn't just like hang out on my to-do list until today. It got planted on the calendar. And so lawyers are used to that. They plant hearings on the calendar, they plant trial dates, they plan appointments on the calendar. I'm saying you got to plan everything else. So if you have a brief that's due, if you want to work on some of your marketing materials, if you want to have meetings with people, it doesn't just hang out on this ever-growing list, which is like driving your brain crazy. It has to find a place on the calendar. And this is what this will teach you. You don't really have enough time to do everything that you think
Right.
that you have to do. So lawyers, that doesn't work because I didn't have enough room. No, actually it worked. It showed you that you don't have enough room to get this done. And so now what that causes is you have to start thinking about, and this is where the philosophy of the book is so important, Laura Lee, is what's really important? What's that 20% of things that Ben was born to do and that Ben adds value to clients and Ben adds value to the business that are most critical? Like that, and especially as an entrepreneur, that's the weight that I wear on my shoulders, but that's what in essence I'm hired to do. Because if I'm not working in my 20%, in my zone of genius, my family is upset because at the end of the day, Laura Lee, if we run out of time, we go and we steal it. And who do we steal it from? We steal it from our family. We stay late on the nights. We come in on the weekends. We have our darn cell phones going on. My cell phone does not beep, ding, vibrate, buzz, and I have no work email on my cell phone. And look, that's been true ever since cell phones were invented and I had one, and nobody's died, right? That's my standard. Like nobody's died. Like the world still moves. But we end up stealing from our families, right?
Yes.
And that's horrible because, again, philosophy and mindset. If you ask a lawyer, do you value your family? Oh, yes, they're number one. terrific. If I followed you around for 2 weeks, Laura Lee, and you say you value your family, by observation, would I be convinced that you value your family? And the answer for most lawyers is no, right? Because we are stealing them. So this whole concept of time blocking, the other thing that time blocking does is, so we blocked time for this event, and there's something blocked after this event. Earlier today, I was working on a brief, appeal to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in one of our ERISA cases, working on a brief, and something is blocked right behind it. So now this trains me. If I've blocked 90 minutes to attend to, for example, a brief, when you first start doing this, you're going to miss. You're going to get to 90 minutes and you go, oh my God, I only got 10% of what I thought I could get done. But over time, you start to train your brain. I have to focus. I have to stay focused. I can't go check my phone. I can't check my email. I can't go look over here. I can't look over there. You focus. And so this having a beginning time and an end time to every event, client calls, meetings, brief writing, will teach you. Will fail at it at the beginning, but it will teach you over time. How much is this time? How much does this really take? Do I have buffer time in between events for my own self, so my heart rate comes back down and I can gather my thoughts and get ready for the next event? Because the opposite is a mess. The opposite is I just go through the day, and most lawyers go through the day, Laura Lee, directed by what? Their email inbox. Oh my gosh.
Or jumping from one fire to the next fire to the next fire.
And then they add fire. They add fire. Like they go, oh, I have a second. Let's go check let's check. Oh, holy crap. Now some lawyer on the other side is reaching out and they got a nasty email, and now that stress goes up. That's crazy. And all I'm saying is, if I can look, 2 businesses, 9 kids, referee, CrossFit, all that, and recovering from triple bypass surgery in March. If I can do this, you can too. So try the time blocking exercise that's in the book. Today, it's easier to do because we have Google Calendar and we have Outlook Calendar. And so it's easy to just slide things in. And it just forces you to think. So what I'll do is I'll do on Sunday, I'll take some part of Sunday, let's look at my calendar, look at what's coming up, and make sure that I have assigned what used to be on my to-do list into spots on the calendar. The other thing it teaches, and I've gone on a long monologue here, is the art of delegation, all right? And yes, it's really hard if you're the solo and you have no other team, and I know that there's law firms out there like that, but look, there's people all around the world who would love to come work for you on a part-time basis at least, and who are really good at getting stuff done and really good at taking delegation. Again, I could do a couple hours.
Well, that's how we met 20 years ago. I think I was the first virtual assistant you worked with, wasn't I?
Yeah, 100%. So today, just so people know, like the law firm employs about 21 people, 5 are full-time in the Philippines, and they're wonderful, and they're working on our time zone. And my son and I each have a full-time executive assistant, 40-hour-a-week executive assistant, working just for us to help organize these things. Now, again, I didn't start there, but I grew there, right?
Yeah.
And I grew there by learning, by hanging out with people who did things bigger, better, faster than I do, which is why you should be in somebody's mastermind group, and saying, oh, how does she do it? Oh, that's pretty cool. So that's a long thing on calendar time blocking. But I would welcome, like, people can reach out to me on LinkedIn and stuff. Like,
so talk to me about the outsourcing side of things, because I think that, or just the delegation side, right? Growing the team, whether it's in-house team, virtual team, offshore team, whatever it might look like, that whole concept, I talk all the time about it. It's prying the fingers the attorneys don't want to let go, right? I mean, I think I did a little bit of that with you too. I was like, no, Ben, really, I can do this. You need to just let me do it. And you would be like, oh, wow, that's great.
All the lawyers are so smart and our egos and our heads are so big. And we went to law school and we think, oh my gosh, Laura Lee, nobody could do X as good as I could. And so lawyers in particular, many entrepreneurs, but lawyers in particular, have a hard time letting go of the vine. And this is why scaling the practice becomes difficult. As your marketing gets better and you have more people coming into the firm and your reputation grows, and you don't learn to trust, and you don't learn to say, look, if I delegate something to Laura Lee and she gets it a little bit wrong, it's likely not going to be fatal. And there's all sorts of ways now I could, if Laura Lee was coming on as a new virtual assistant for me, the technology today makes it so easy for me to teach Laura Lee how to handle my email, how to handle my calendar. And at the same time, we're building a repository of Ben's playbook. So if
Yeah.
Laura Lee leaves me, finds another guy she'd like to go work for, right? And Laura Lee's replaced, right? Then I have this whole Ben Glass, the life of Ben Glass playbook. Again, don't be overwhelmed by the fact that I've built something like this because it wasn't built overnight. And so I'll give you an example too. I work in the space of ERISA, long-term disability and life insurance claims, which is a federally regulated, very interesting, underserved niche. If you want to get into it, like you should have a look at this. It's all federal court work. And it's a lot of brief writing. It's a lot of looking at claims files and brief writing. And so I have a personal mindset coach, my friend Sammy Jong up in Toronto, who's Laura Lee. And I said to Sammy, like, how can I scale this? Nobody could write an ERISA brief. I couldn't even teach it to someone. He says, you're an idiot. So how do you know? Because Sammy's thing always, how do we know until we ask the world, right? Ask the universe, he actually said. Just design that person in your head. Doesn't even have to be a lawyer. I said, Samuel, no one who's not a lawyer is going to understand this. He goes, I don't know. So Ben goes, this is what I'm looking for. Found one, not a lawyer, good writer, careful, attentive to detail. Now, this doesn't mean that this person is writing my brief. I'm just signing it and we're filing it in federal court. No, that's not like the ChatGPT. We don't do that, right? But what it does mean is that there was something that I believed could not be done by someone who was not very experienced in ERISA, and I was wrong. And I was wrong in part because we have this whole body of intellectual property. We had years and years. I've been doing this for 2 decades of briefs and samples and examples. So I could teach that. So letting go of the vine, trusting people, and then, Lori, this all ultimately gets back to hiring. Whenever you hire someone, and this isn't what we're talking about in the book, but I do have a book on building it. I do have a part in the book on building a team. Hire people that are better than the ones you have. Like, we should always be hiring up. That's a side note. And look, you'll make mistakes and they will make mistakes. But the alternative is you steal time from your family. It just is. And the alternative is the client experience decreases. Just because you're talking to everybody all the time, that doesn't mean the client experience is going up. And my team is a better deliverer of the overall experience for the client than I am. Don't call me asking, like, did the medical records come in? Because I don't know. I'm not in charge of did the medical records come in. That's another long rant. I'm good at ranting.
That's why I love hanging out and talking with you, because you've lived it and you've done it the old way. And then you've shifted and you've applied these principles to real life with growing your firm, growing great legal marketing, writing the books, doing the refereeing, all volunteering with different organizations, all the things that I know you've been involved with as you've grown both of those businesses. I've sat there and watched it. I've been involved in it. I've seen you apply these principles and teach the principles to other attorneys.
Yeah, and let me give your listeners, just go listen to Tim Ferriss's podcast interview of a guy named Sam Corcos, Corcos. It's over 2 hours long. But Corcos delivers a master class on the art of delegation. And so go listen to that. Invest the time on your walk or while you're on a treadmill or something.
And delegation is so huge. But Ben, I want to go back to the whole mindset and because one of the things that I always admired and looked up to, and it just put you on a whole nother level with me, was when you would say, no, I can't do that because that would be stealing time from my family. That has been a fundamental principle for you ever since I've known you. And that is so important. And I know you tapped into it, but I want and anybody listening to this interview is really going back and hearing Ben say, if I followed you around for 2 weeks, would I really see that your family is number one?
Yes. So here's the mantra that people who know me know that I live by. Laura Lee, we have no control over who we were born to, when we were born, or into what circumstance we were born. We have some control over about how many days we get. By our life habits, hopefully we can extend that. In between, it's a one-way journey, and life is meant to be lived in joy, for your joy. You are meant to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you build a life where you are happy, you are deliberately making choices that make you happy, making sure that your family, because I think your family is the number two in this, like making sure that they're happy. So asking curious questions with your spouse or partner, I mean, there's a whole nother seminar we could do on that. And then, Laura Lee, building a place, and this is what's so cool about Ben Glass Law. Brian and I built a place where our mantra is where people will thrive. We want to thrive as owners, our families will thrive, our team members thrive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really important. When you come to work here, we promise you this will be the best place you ever worked in your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And Laura Lee, I'm going to ask you what will make this perfect for you as we go along in our journey working together. And I'm going to say, Laura Lee, I can't guarantee that I can make this perfect for you, but I can tell you this. If you don't know what's perfect and you're not striving for something and you can't communicate that to me, then what are we shooting for? And when Ben is happy, the family's happy, the team is happy, the clients will be well served. So we don't put the client first. Our clients are well served and we're really good at the legal.
Yeah.
We're really good at the legal, right? In our space, like we don't know divorces or wills or estate planning or anything like that. That's not our space. But it's the way to get to what do we want? We want to solve the problem, the client's problem, or help them, whatever their connection is to legal. We want that to be solved and we want them to have a great experience. And the way to do it is to make sure that the racehorse is happy first. And that's the philosophy. You, as the owner of a law firm, are really important. You are a hero. You are providing a job. You are providing a place to come to work. Your people pay taxes. Your people do work that they like. And at the end of the day, we're helping clients. So that's how this whole thing works. And people ask me, I'm 66, again, had triple bypass surgery in March, fastest return ever to CrossFit and refereeing. People say, when are you going to retire? I'm like, shit. I retire from people I don't like and things I don't want to do every single day. But most of the stuff I get to do and have to do, I actually like doing. Now, it's not totally stress-free, right? If you follow me around, you would go, oh my gosh. But we've gotten really good at going, oh my gosh, that thing happened. What is it teaching me? How might we respond? How can I use this event to teach my team? And we'll talk about that here in a second. And then maybe we need to have a hard conversation with a client or a spouse or a business partner or opponent. Like I've called opposing counsel and they sent like stupid emails and say stupid stuff. I go, Bill, fake name, Bill, I just have to tell you that email you sent, like that really rubbed me wrong. And let me just tell you why. And not in anger. Having hard conversations is a part of life. Yeah. So you want to talk about how you build a team? There's a really cool part in the book where one of the things I do, Laura Lee, is I consult with physicians and healthcare providers all over the United States who've got something going on, who are thinking I may need to apply for disability benefits under my insurance policy. And we've got some really good marketing that attracts these people to me. And so they're trying to figure out a complicated life. Every once in a while, we also have clients who are mad. That's rare, but every once in a while. When we're having those calls, my team, whoever wants, like you can come, I'm pointing to the other desk in my office, you can come sit here. We're going to put on speakerphone, right? You are going to hear the answer that Ben gives. You're going to see how Ben deals with the client. And then when the call is over, we're going to talk about the reasons behind the why, like the answers that I gave, so that the team builds knowledge. Some lawyers go, well, I don't want my other lawyers to know all my secrets. I'm afraid they'll leave. That's crazy. That's a crazy way to run a law firm, because the opposite of that is 5 years from now, they're the same person that they were, right? Your team is exactly the same as they were 5 years from now, and you're wondering why you're not growing. So all of these client interactions that are by phone or by Zoom, like my team is in here learning in real time, asking me questions after the call, and then they're generating the notes, although we use AI a lot now to help generate notes, and they're reviewing the AI generated notes. And they have this relationship with the client, which is why clients don't even call me. people aren't calling Ben to go, what's going on with my case? Because they have a good relationship with our case managers who are very proactive in keeping them not just advised about the case, but in literally trying to find out about their lives.
Really
Right?
relationship. Yeah.
Keeping track.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly right. Actually caring,
Yeah.
actually caring about people. So that's a lot coming from a no BS time management book. But at the end of the day, if you like the philosophy of I should be happy, even if I'm a lawyer, because the bar associations are all about you actually should be miserable. That's what you signed up for, is for BS. You talked about a BS
Yeah.
stance. That's that. If you like the philosophy that life is meant to be lived in happiness, and I, a lawyer, would like to learn more about that, then reach out to me. For over 20 years, we've been coaching lawyers through great legal marketing, run conferences, we have group, mastermind groups, all that. But basically, we're helping those lawyers, Laura Lee, who are not spending tens of thousands of dollars on broadcast advertising or digital marketing spend, right?
Yeah.
We're helping you compete with them. Have a great life. That's the primary, because you don't know how many days you have left, right? Build a great team where you like coming to work, your team likes coming to work. Boy, ask yourself right now in your law firm, do you like going to work? Does your team
Mhm.
like going to work? And do you like going home? If you're yes, then you probably have a great thing going. That's really my space. Like I'm not the smartest one in the world about law, but I'm good. Tried
Yeah.
many cases, argued many important cases here
Been
in
doing it
Virginia.
for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so funny because those that are here know me and are in my orbit. And I'm sure they're thinking, wow, this all sounds really familiar because it's all the same crap that Laura Lee tells us all the time, right? This is where I learned it.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
truly, and through Ben's program and his members and all of that, that's where Legal Marketing Maven was born, because so many of the members were learning that they needed to do these things and they didn't have a team to do it. And I was like, hey, we can come in and do this. All of these principles intertwine with how you're marketing your practice, how you're growing your team, how you're managing your time. And at the end of the day, everybody that knows me knows it's all about your family, because we don't know how much time we have left. And everybody that knows me knows my personal stories of losing my husband, losing my son, all of the things. And I, more than anyone, always stress the importance of how important every single second with your family is, because you can never get it back, you
and
know?
give yourself full credit, because you said I learned it all from Ben. You may have heard it at first from me, but over the next 20 years, because a lot of people have heard this message, right? But
Yeah,
you honed it by being around people who think this way. That's the other thing I think is
true.
really important for lawyers, that there's a whole bunch of us who think this way. They're not going to regular old lawyer CLE meetings. I'll tell you that, because
Right.
that's a miserable group of
Yes.
attendees in most cases. But they're hanging out in groups like yours, like mine. And there's a number of really good groups here. And when you hang out with people who believe as you do, that fundamentally, like we're lawyers, but there's life, like life is bigger than being a lawyer.
Yeah.
And we're blessed to be able to work in air conditioned and heated buildings and make money with our brains and not do the backbreaking work that many of our clients do. Right. So we're
Mhm.
blessed all around. Stop being unhappy about this. Our message, your message, and my message is just that this is possible. You and I, we don't tell people how to run their lives. We don't tell them how to live their lives, but we show them the possibilities.
Yeah.
This is actually possible. And we've got some smart guys and gals who can help you get there. If you're listening to this and you're like, man, I'm over here, and Laura Lee and Ben are talking about lawyers that are over here in terms of their life happiness, in part because they have controlled time or managed time through
Yeah.
structures.
That management of time, it's super, super important, y'all. So when is the book coming out? Can we pre-order this? I think I have a link here. I'm gonna
Yeah. So
drop
this is
it
what we
in
want.
the
This is what is
chat.
coming August 13, it releases. And
Okay.
Dan and I would really love it if you would buy it like that day, because
Okay.
we're trying to engineer a bestseller on
Okay,
Amazon.
here's what
Uh,
I'm going to do then. How
yeah.
about this? I'm not even dropping the link for y'all right now. You can, it looks like you can pre order it, Joel, but we're going to wait. And I'm going to make
Yeah.
sure that I'm going to send an email. It's the 13th, you said, Ben?
August 13th. Yep.
Okay, so August 13th, Charm on my team is going to make sure we're going to send an email out with a link that day so we can get this thing to a bestseller or help Ben get this thing to a bestseller for Ben and Dan on the day that it releases because we've been involved in those book launches before.
Sure.
We know how that works, and that's always fun. I have two books that I co-authored that were bestsellers. So it's always nice to say, oh, I wrote a best-selling book. So
Well, it is marketing and it's true, right?
right.
And so,
It's not gimmicky marketing. It's real
good.
life marketing. The marketing you do, the marketing I do, the marketing we help our attorneys do is all not gimmicky salesy marketing. It's education. It's helping people. When you help people, you grow a bigger business. It's just that simple. Build relationships and help people, and your business will grow. That's how I look at it.
Tell your story.
We're going to open it up a little bit. If anybody has any questions, they want to drop them in the chat. We've got a few more minutes with Ben here. Ben, if you want to chime in on any of the other really great, because I know there's 25 tips in this at least.
I can chime in on anything.
I know, I know.
Dan developed, I think, the concept of the vultures.
The vultures, yes. Let's talk about time vultures.
And the vultures are personas. Largely, they are personas. Although a time vulture can also be like your devices, and everyone will recognize at least one or probably several of the personas of vultures you have in your life, and particularly in your law firms. One of the things that happened when we moved into our new space 5-6 years ago, and we were growing really fast, and every day, like the line outside my door was growing. And those are people like well-meaning, but thought they had to have an answer to a question right now. And you probably have that right now. The pop-ins, like the drive-bys. Hey, I just got a quick question.
Slack.
So one of the ways
those Slack messages.
Oh no, my youngest, like, you got to put Slack on your phone. I'm like, I am not putting Slack on your. Like the last thing I need is that. But your team does need you, right? And so one of the things we do at the law firm is every week, the leadership team has a 90-minute meeting. We run EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, for the leadership team, but then in both the verticals. So Laura Lee, if you're working for me and you're working on the disability side and you have a question, the reality is that question can most frequently, 99% of the time, can be answered next Monday at 1:15 at our weekly 1-hour disability meeting. And so you just plant that on the issues list. Yes, EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. The book to read on that is Traction or Get a Grip, things you would go and Google. But so your team knows that there will be a time. Also, I block other time on the calendars like, hey, there's an open door. So those are appropriate times where you could come, where the door is open. You can bring your random thing if you want. The other thing, Laura Lee, is when you come, like, I want you to bring three potential solutions and tell me what solution you're recommending I do, because this will help you as I go, yes, Laura Lee, good. It helps you grow in your confidence so that, because what I want you to be able to do is to answer with comments. Again, non-lawyers are not doing a legal analysis and answering legal questions, but most of what we do is talking about the process, and that's the process of how we do things here at Ben Glass Law. And we're all accumulating information, and we're helping clients accumulate information that helps us lawyers do our work at the highest levels, which is really what you're paid to do. You're paid to be creative and to figure stuff out and solve problems in an efficient way while delivering a great experience for the client. No.
Yeah. So just pull that apart a little bit, condense it down. Block your time for interruptions from your team as well as everything else. Have them come to you with their issue, but also with their solution. And if that solution isn't right, I'm going to take it one little further step. Then you're going to explain to them what you think, how you think it should be done, and explain the why. Because when you explain the why, they can then take that why into their knowledge bank and apply it to the other situations that might come up that are similar.
And develop, this is discipline, because this is hard. Develop the discipline of speaking last at a group meeting. Let the other team members pitch in their idea as to what the answer is and why. Usually, one of them will get it. And now you hold that person up and you don't have to do your work. You don't have to do it, right? And so again, lawyers have a hard time like not talking. Like I obviously have a hard time like not running my mouth.
I was gonna say that I would love to be a fly on the
Yeah, it's
wall
hard.
20 years later of seeing Ben just sitting there and letting everybody
It's
else
hard.
conduct the meeting. That I would
It's
love
so
to.
hard that you will notice it when it happens because it's like, why isn't
I,
he saying anything?
yeah, I would definitely notice that.
Yeah.
All right. One of the questions was, do you believe in dividing a schedule into zones for specific uses? So I'm assuming that's like working on marketing, working on client facing work, working on the business operations, that type of thing.
Yes, I think that's helpful. So I'm a morning guy, and my one of my patterns or habits, like today, we started this call at 12. I didn't leave my house until 11 because
Mhm.
I was actually working on a brief and it was quiet. So my creative quiet time is typically in the morning. But I also believe that so for example, I write a lot of articles for the Great Legal Marketing Journal and for weekly memoranda and faxes to our members. But I block time for that. I then know as I worry about other things that I'm going to have this 90 minutes on Thursday afternoon, let's just say, where I'm going to be typically secluded. We've got a lot of space now. And of course, people go, it's easy for you to say, but Laura Lee, I don't know, like there was a while when we had a small office and I actually rented for $400 a month an office in one town over, and it was a piece of crap C-level building, no internet, no phones. My name was on the door, but nobody knew me. And I would just drive over there some days to get my deep work done because,
Mm,
again, I needed that. So that was a way, again, not discipline, but structure, adding structure. And I think excuse me, almost anybody could find that place. It's very hard sometimes for some people to do work at home because you got dogs running around, you got kids running around.
yeah.
Work at Starbucks is stupid. Like that's crazy. But finding the quiet place either in your office, other times I went to the library. But yeah, scheduling zones. And then for example, my EA, Claire, she runs my calendar now and she knows what zones to try to hit with my stuff.
Yeah, that's the greatest thing ever. I have my executive assistant charm too, and it's just like life changing when you can have that just somebody else that's managing those things.
Yeah.
Really huge. So really it's all about identifying where the delegation, where the priority for delegation is. It's all about blocking that time on the schedule. There's going to be a ton of tips in the book, and we're all going to get the book on the 13th. So I'm going to drop that link into the group. I'm going to drop it in the descriptions of this video everywhere that we share it. And then we're going to send an email out to the list. So you guys will know where to go and grab the book. It's going to be probably Amazon, unless Ben has some flashy
Amazon's good. No,
book launch
Amazon's
thing that
easy.
he's doing.
No, no, oh, we thought about that, but I've got three others of those going.
Yeah, yeah.
That's hard. And the exercise to do before you get the book is really figuring out the value of your time.
Mm-hmm.
And most people make the mistake, as Dan points out in the book, of going revenue of X, divide that by 40 hours a week, divide that, times 52 weeks or 50 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. The reality is most people do not get productive 40 hours a week. Most people get a productive like 90 minutes a day. Actually, if you
Mm-hmm.
track executives. So we're going to raise that 90 minutes through some of these strategies. But when you put on a whiteboard in front of you what the actual value of your time is, and someone's walking in the door to steal it from you, like that just helps you build up this ruthlessness. And by ruthless, we mean we're paying attention. We don't have to be mean, but we're going to be paying attention. We're going to be strict, and we're going to create these rules of engagement. And again, you're the racehorse. I'm giving you permission to let the world revolve around you. And I'm maybe the only one in your life that's telling you that's okay to do. But without you, like that business doesn't run. Your clients don't get the best deal, and your family doesn't get the best deal without you taking ruthless control of your time.
Love it. All right, Ben, real quick before we wrap things up here, where can people get a hold of you at? Where can they learn more about great legal marketing and all that good stuff? I know you've got an event that comes up in the fall. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes.
Let's plug it real quick.
Yeah.
And
So
I want everybody to know about it.
Yes. Come to Phoenix in October. That's glmsummit.com. You
Okay.
can find out more about Great Legal Marketing at greatlegalmarketing.com. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. Both Brian Glass and myself are big on LinkedIn, and we're constantly writing about these philosophies. And really, we're not in the space to help the $50 million lawyer make his next $50 million. We're here to help those of you who are running small law firms. Many lawyers who come to us are running less than 7 figures when they start of total gross revenue. They're stressed out and they're wondering like why they took the leap to run a business. We can help you.
Yeah.
We have 100% can help you across multiple practice areas, different practice areas. And it just requires, I think, an alignment of the philosophy, which Laura Lee and I have talked about a number of times now.
And I just got to give a little bit of a shout out because Brian, he has a great podcast too.
Yeah.
And so go follow him on LinkedIn too and listen into his podcast. They've got so much material, and add it to your lists of what you're listening into, the Renegade Lawyer podcast. And then which one is Brian's? I can't remember the name of it, but I know it's on my list and I listened
I
to it.
typed it into the chat.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I think it's
Yes,
Beyond the
Beyond the
Briefs.
Brief.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And I know Brian before he even finished law school. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just
Yep.
it's fun stuff watching all the kids grow up and do their things and come into their own, and it's just fun. So
It's
thank
living
you,
life.
Ben.
It's just living
Yeah.
life, dear. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Laura Lee.
Living life big and on your terms and really making your family the priority. That's the message here. So thanks, Ben. Have a wonderful rest of your
Thanks,
day,
everybody.
and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Appreciate you.